Fix it. Good day, Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, a very good morning, Trinidad, and of course, good morning, Tobago. My apologies for clocking in a little bit after the time that I'm supposed to be here. I want to welcome the candidate for Barataria and his team. Today, of course, as Philip says, we don't want no stunting, and that is basically why I am behind the mic and not Kevin, because Kevin might be a stunter.
I take offense personally to that. And I demand a retraction.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I retract. If it was really the speaker would have said, shut up. But the politics of Trinidad and Tobago is a strange politics because of the polarization of the nation. I had the goodness in finding and speaking with a former Prime Minister of Barbados yesterday at the university, who came to discuss about governance and the role of economics and all of these things in the whole mix of handling a country. And his opening statement was that if you really want to be a good leader, you have to follow the discipline and training that you belong to. I remember on the Saturday I brought that to your attention, and I said to you that being a photographer, somebody who left all the other things, including an opportunity to go to teach,
Right.
to go and pick up photography,
Right.
had to be something. It doesn't mean to say that everybody has to be an economist and a lawyer and a doctor in order to follow the skill sets.
Correct.
And all trades or all professions have skill sets. Photography is no different than economics. I mean, when you think about it, and if you are looking at the scenario that is unfolding, it means to say you have to have a grounding in order to have a leadership. He in his own right had indicated that he, as the Prime Minister, being with economics as his background, decided clearly from the beginning, and he ran Barbados for 3 consecutive terms, successfully, leaving the economics in a very good condition. Unfortunately, as I said to him, I don't understand why you're so profound in your discussion, but you're lost. And that's one of the things that we have to start to understand in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Master Upande has always been a man who has had a vision as to how we could fix it, because the Westminster system really as a minority doesn't work. And in the field that you are entering now, which is in that Barataria area, you're going to be a minority.
Right.
Pulling that off will of course have to have a change in the hearts and minds of the people. That's where it starts. It isn't going to happen by you with your glamorous look or your fancy talk. It has to be because people have accepted that the change must come. I think Janet was making that point earlier on before I came to the microphone. So
Right.
let's start from that perspective to build a foundation of understanding for you, the candidate, because you've been outside there now a week.
Right.
And let's understand what that means from the point of view of you facing those people. Because let me tell you something, in the Trinidad and Tobago model, people tell you everything you want to hear, you know. But on the date of going to the polls, they go there with a political decision of a 2-party system that has been entrenched in the country for a significant amount of time. So are you finding people who are, from your perspective, and as Philip said, no stunting business here,
Right.
out of the 10 people that you would have spoken to, how many of them do you believe, honestly, are genuine to what you are telling them?
Well, I'd say probably about half.
About half. But
Yeah.
that's a good indication. You are there. And then I ask you that because I want to build that rapport with you
Right.
from the point of view of understanding clearly the genuine person I'm talking to.
Right.
Now if you give me some kind of BS and tell me 7 or 8 out of 10 I'll watch you, that's strange.
Now you see, it's about half, and the other half is not to say that they are sold on any other political party. What we mostly get is that they are interested in the idea of a third party because they see the need for it, or they just aren't interested in politics at all. Which a lot of people, like you say, have become jaded and written off politics on the whole.
So when you look at those people and you have to break them into categories of age, if we split it into three categories,
Right.
20, 40, 60, how many of them is in the 40 kind of age group that you've met?
Well, dealing with the people who are available at the times of the walkabouts and thing, we tend to get around that middle class group, like I said, and they are the ones who are divided half and half. Among the younger people, they are much more open towards the idea of change because they grew up already writing off the two options that they had. So having this third option, they are a lot more open to it. And then as you go to the older end, they are more set in their ways in terms of this is a two-party country and we aren't open to this third force. They're still sold on this ideology that Pandey sold, that we're here to split votes, that kind of nonsense. But in terms of like you divided them, it comes down as you get lower down the rank, they are more and more open to the idea of change.
The younger is more open,
Yeah.
the middle is more or less balanced, and the older is definitely fixed.
Correct.
And
Well,
I think-
I wouldn't say definitely, but it might be like the 7 out of 10, like you
Yeah,
said.
but they are the fixed one.
Right.
All right. So, Barataria, when I was there on the Saturday and you spoke, I mean, one of the things I tried to indicate, and you've been talking a little bit, but how are you going to make the changes that are necessary that you are telling the people? Are you saying to people, I'll give you a street sign?
Nah.
Okay.
So the way we plan to execute our campaign is twofold. One, we realize that a lot of the people in the area, as with across the entire country, they aren't really knowledgeable as to what local government means to them and what they are responsible for. They just know it exists, but they don't know what issues that they're supposed to address. For example, policing is actually between local and central government. The health centers fall strictly on local government. Issues like that, all the streets that don't fall under the Ministry of Works fall under local government. People don't know these issues. So the first step in actually getting this campaign done is informing people and empowering them to know what this vote that they have on July 16th really means to them. And then, well, the second part in terms of the campaign, what we're trying to do, because the thing is, everybody fends for themselves now. Everybody feels like they're on their own and they have nobody else to help them. So in terms of that, our ideology at the Progressive Empowerment Party is to build back the community so that the responsibility doesn't fall on any one person. You don't blame the teachers for a failure in education, or you don't blame the police for the crime. You blame the entire community because everybody would be responsible for each other. And that's the direction we want to head in this campaign. A message of hope, a message of unity, and a message that, PEP hasn't given up on you all. We know it can be fixed, and we're willing to give you all that option now.
I don't think people know enough about you. So let us try to inform the people who is the candidate. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Married or single?
Single in terms of if you're comparing it single versus married, but I am in a committed relationship.
Well, you're married then.
Well, that's what I said. We ain't signed the papers yet, but I'm in a committed relationship. Yeah.
But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And how do you see the future? I mean, as a young person, what are your views with regards to family life?
Well, I'm glad you raised those two questions together, because being in this committed relationship and planning my future ahead is actually a big factor into what drove me into politics. What I couldn't wrap my mind around is planning within the next 5 years to start a family and whatnot, but then being so conscious of the problems my child would be encountering that should be addressed first. For example, a lot of drugs, a lot of homeless, there's even prostitution, and all this takes place within a stone's throw distance of where I expect my child to go to primary school. So I'm not comforted thinking next 3 to 4 years to have a child, knowing that that's what they have to face. So I decided, while I'm young, while I still have the time, I'll put aside building my business, and let me make sure the country is an environment that I want to start a family in first, which is a big factor as to what drove me into politics.
I think the priority is correct, because if you continue to try to grow a fruit tree in barren land, it wouldn't grow.
Right.
And I think that's the position that Trinidad and Tobago has found itself in, unfortunately. And it's one of the problems that I think the Barbados Prime Minister made very clear. You know, Mr. Pandey has always been the person. I refer to him not for any other reason, but because I think he has some very sound national developmental thinking. In that the system of present, as you would agree, I am sure, cannot work because it really puts a third party out.
Right.
And unless we cannot bring more people to the party, meaning to the center, then what will continue to evolve will be the history, meaning one or the other. And that means to say some kind of constitutional changing. But again, that's a longer discussion.
Right.
When you look at the issue of Barataria from a priority point of view,
Right.
what will be your top 3 things that you think requires being addressed, even as a minority in the Laventille Corporation?
Right, well, we actually started that discussion before you came in. So, the common thread throughout all of them, they all have an issue with mosquitoes and sandflies.
Is it?
Yeah. And they don't realize that that actually falls under the purview of local government, because it falls under drainage, sanitation, and environmental protection. Right? So, they don't know who to pressure to get that addressed. So, we are there informing them, listen, this falls under local government. This is what we will do for you. That's one issue. The second issue is roadways. The roadways in Barataria, although they are set up in a perfect grid of streets and avenues, they aren't proper signage, they aren't proper... the roadway itself is high and low, so it causes people to swerve, damage their vehicles, that kind of stuff. And then, well, the third issue among most of the business people, so on 12th Street, 6th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, the common thread there is that they don't feel safe as businesses. A lot of them actually hire police officers off duty to protect their place. So when I explained to them that local government pairs up with central government to handle policing, they sound surprised. They thought that was strictly separate from these arms of government, right? And they don't know who to demand better for, because they just want patrols. They want to know that in the case of anything happening, a police is not too far away and they are along that route. And Barataria is not to say that they want patrols on every street. The businesses are set up on basically 3 or 4 streets, right? So in terms of that, they've been asking out for a long time for a higher police presence, a higher police patrol, make sure and stop and check in, that kind of thing, so that they don't have this extra cost now. It's like they're paying a completely new employee just for security, and they can't afford that. It's not sustainable. So that's my 3 issues I'd like to see
So you're
addressed.
saying it's mosquitoes and sandflies.
Right.
You're saying it's the roads.
Roadways and infrastructure
And you're
around the
saying
roadways.
it's security.
Security.
When you look at the people that you have met along the path, you would have met some senior citizens, I'm sure.
Correct.
Do you think that Barataria provides enough infrastructure for taking care of the seniors?
Well, between the health center and transport would be a bigger issue for them. You know, mobility in terms of that, because like we said, the pavement's not in order. Some blocks don't have. Some blocks have high and low pavements. They have the ones with the raised manhole covers, some with no manhole covers. So in terms of mobility for them, is a bit harder. But in terms of providing services, I haven't come across anybody complaining of that.
Did you take the time off to look at any of the local government documents that was put forward for the budget of 2017-18?
Yeah. Well, we looked at the revenue and expenditure, and we actually discussed that. When was that? Last night. That looking at the expenditure, the biggest portion of it is assigned to other administrative costs, and that's all we have to go with. That's aside from salaries, aside from investment in equipment, roads, health centers, everything else. The biggest chunk of the expenses was actually just labeled other administrative costs, which totaled about $500 million of the budget. So I mean, in terms of that, I would like to be raising these questions as well, because we see in the lack of infrastructure otherwise, and they always claim there's a lack of funds to get it done. So we need to start from the top and consider where are these leakages taking place and where is money being wasted, that we could pull it back to the more important things.
When you look at the future of Barataria, what really do you see?
Well, for me, I just want to see a proper residential area, because Barataria is basically a residential area. So in terms of the things we expect for a high standard of life, same things. We expect proper sidewalks and roadways. We expect policing for the businesses. We expect to make sure that you don't have rats, cockroaches, mosquitoes and sandflies. These are the things that become a nuisance to people who live in there. It's a health hazard. It's all these things that lower your standard of life. We just want one that matches the amount of money this country really makes.
You reside in Barataria, correct?
I live in San Juan.
And in your understanding of the area, you talk about patrolling and all of these things. Has there been any significant criminal deviant behavior in this area?
Well, honestly, a lot of the Chinese people especially have talked about being taxed, which
Okay.
I'm not too sure about. I believe it's just residents in the area come up and let them know, listen, you have to pay this tax or else we will send someone. And, well, robberies is not that major of a thing because, like I said, the businesses have already taken the extra step of having a police officer there at all times, paying out of pocket for that.
And nothing like murders or anything?
Not to say, but we have small robberies as well because a lot of foot traffic from people coming home from school and work and that kind of thing. You have a lot of minor robberies as well.
But when you look at the school infrastructure in Barataria, what are your views?
Well, in terms of the changes that should happen in school, I think that our policies in terms of national policy for education would work pretty well in Barataria in terms of zoning the schools and having that system working, removing the SCA, that kind of thing. That more aligns itself with our national goal in terms of education. Because for local government, they are only really in charge of nurseries and early childhood care.
And in the Barataria area, early childhood care, are there a number of early childhood care centers in Barataria?
I noticed a couple, and it wasn't brought to my attention that they require anymore. So I can't say for sure that we have enough, but it wasn't brought to my attention that is an issue.
What about the playgrounds in the area?
Well, they actually have enough recreational grounds and that kind of thing. They do pretty well in terms of providing that sort of stuff. Recreation, they have the park on Don Miguel, they have the park opposite George's, the skating rink. There's a lot of different activities in terms of that, as well as sporting groups, sporting clubs to help people get extracurricular activities done.
But are those things fully subscribed to? Do they actively have the kind of participation?
They do in Barataria, yes, for sure. The batting cages are always active, the basketball courts, that kind of thing, yeah. People.
But those are privately owned or by the schools?
No, those are actually under the regional corporation.
They're under the regional corporation.
Yeah.
So you would say therefore that on that side of the equation, more or less,
It's done pretty well.
is the opposition candidate or candidates in this particular thing saying anything that is different than what you're realizing?
Well, what I get from what they're saying is they're identifying a lot of issues, the same issues that we are identifying, but they aren't coming with any solutions, as well as the reason they won't come with solutions is because they have had the chances, and people will ask, listen, if you had the chance, why didn't you come with those solutions then?
Is that what you're hearing from the people when you speak with them?
Yeah. They're saying, listen, they're coming and gassing us up because they're bringing up all the negative things that they know will affect us and stir emotions. But they're not coming with solutions. They're not coming with that final selling point to say, listen, this is why you should support us. They're just coming and stirring up emotions and saying, listen, these people
Don't vote
fail
for
you,
them.
don't vote for them. It's all a message of hopelessness and despair, which, like I said, I try to align my campaign in the other direction, a message of hope and opportunity.
Let me just have a little quick chat with your two
Sure.
representatives that is supporting your initiative. How do either you feel about the candidates' chances in the Barataria area? I mean, Stuart Young was very eloquent, win plenty. So nobody could predict any kind of thing. It's like football generally going home. We can't tell. Barbados, a clean sweep. Who is to know what will happen in Barataria or in Belmont? I mean, and it's two Bs. So it may be, as they say, it's buzzing.
Right.
So we may see some changes really occurring that has not been in the crystal ball, because at the time when the system was charged, this was outside of the crystal ball, and it has now magnetized and now pull it in there,
Correct.
kind of quite under the covert position, because the PP has really gotten no kind of national recognition from the media houses at all.
Well, that changed since nomination day, though.
Yeah, I realize that.
Right.
I see more writings in the newspaper now.
Right, so we take what we get and we work with that.
And we work with that. So Janet, tell me a little bit about how you feel in this particular campaign. I mean, it's It's not an easy walkover based on historical antecedents.
That's correct.
So to even try to subliminally think that it's a walkover, I'm telling you now, and I mean I made that very clear to you on Saturday when I spoke. What are your views? You are joining the candidate on his rounds?
I have been on one of his walkabouts,
Right.
and that would have been before we did the actual meeting to meet the residents and so on. The two parties, the UNC and the PNM, have both had the opportunity to do work for the people in Barataria, and unfortunately they have not done so. The other thing is that the Progressive Empowerment Party, what we are doing, we are not just talking about, bashing the parties or looking to talk about what they did and what they did not do for you. What we're trying to do is to educate, to wake up the people so that they get to understand what local government entails. Because unfortunately, this is a topic that is not taught in the schools.
Yeah.
So the children growing up into eventual manhood, they don't know anything about local government or what it entails, and they will vote because mom and dad says they're voting for a particular party, but they don't understand why they are voting. They also don't seem to understand, but okay, we have a local government. What are the local government's responsibilities to our community? They don't know. So therefore, they're just going with the flow.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not go out and vote for local government.
That's true.
I, at a younger age, unfortunately, I'm guilty of that because I never really took it on. Didn't know why I have to go out and vote.
Don't feel bad. 75% of the country is just like you and me.
Right, so
That's right.
we are now trying to educate, empower, and to enrich the people, to let them know, listen, you've got to start waking up and taking notice of what is going on. Because at the end of the day, who is suffering? It's you, the people. So therefore, I think that this rounds, people are starting to wake up, they're starting to ask questions. We're even saying to them, listen, when the candidates of the other two parties come knocking at your door, ask them the questions. Because we are providing you with the questions to ask them.
It might be a good idea to have a prepared question list when you go to visit the candidate, to deliver it to them and say, anytime they come, here are 10
Well,
things you can
we've done
ask
even
them.
better than that because we have been giving out copies of our 21 policies.
Yeah, but the
which
policy,
they are
I think you're on a good point there that if you want to, what should I call it? If you want to agitate,
Right.
you have to agitate by prompting. And it
Agreed.
would be a good idea. The 21 policies are very good, but that wouldn't lead to the questions that you want them to, want to get.
No,
it
but-
will in a way because at the end of the day, when you come talking to me about, some of the issues that we address with solutions in our 21 policies, they will say, but wait a minute, how come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing that? I have a document here from the Progressive Empowerment Party giving the solutions.
Well,
how come you have not tackled
Janet,
those solutions?
I want to tell you that utopia. You're thinking in a way as if though the society has any interest in that.
Well,
And somehow or the other,
I
while
beg
you
to
may be
differ.
right,
I beg to
yeah,
differ
but I
because
mean,
remember,
it's only a matter of time.
just one moment. One of the things that I've also indicated and I have recognized is that you have an older generation that are in their twilight years.
But-
you now
but,
have
yeah.
a younger generation that I will say they are intelligent, right? They are smart. And I think that because we are educating and empowering them, they are going to be the ones who are going to ask the questions.
Well, we wait and see. Tony, what is your take on the area? I
Morning,
mean,
Trinidad.
we getting close to time. so-
Yes. So we have to be somewhat brief. Well, I'll tell you, the exercise that we've had so far, going through the community and meeting people, everybody is very much in great dire need of change, I must say. The media, unfortunately, have done a pretty good job on us for the past year and some, because again, the numbers that we had in fact, if we had exposure by media, I think we would have gotten a whole lot further. But we know the whole story behind that. But where Barataria is concerned, the people on the ground, they do believe it's a breath of fresh air, but the population in itself is somewhat jaded, having to deal with the as they say, the third party concept, where they've had failure with COP as well as NAR, ONR, and the likes of them. But again, it's about us really meeting the people and coming to the ground level, talking to people, having clear ideas as to exactly what is the need within the community. Because once the communities could be addressed, we're looking at the constituencies possibly being addressed, as well as the nation as a group of the constituencies put together. And at some point, we do believe, we are going to fix this nation. The question is the formula in getting into the people's mind, because you raised a pretty good point before, Robert, where we've had generations gone by with this two-party system, exchange and change. That's just what it is. They've been exchanging between the UNC and PNM for again, we've had an entire generation that was born into this. It's all that they know. But at the end of the day, it's all about information, empowering the people with information. Information is what allows people to make better decisions. And if you weren't known to the Progressive Empowerment Party before and what it stands for, the exercise that we're putting forth is actually doing that said process and letting people know that the Progressive Empowerment Party exists, what the party stands for as far as the policies are concerned, as well as the programs and the programs we plan to roll out to keep the population well informed, as well as keeping ourselves aspiring for governance well informed as well, because we must know what the people needs are in order for us to be able to address them. But again, the key factor for us is to create an environment of proper accountability and transparency. So we're not going to say anything on the campaign trail and not be held by it or come with excuses, because every step of the way, once gaining a seat within office or whatever the portfolio might be, the point of the matter is that aside from what the powers that be has been doing for 50 plus years, we plan to roll out a system in which we are able to be in more direct contact and more real-time contact with the citizenry. So this way at least we know what's happening, instead of having to find out something today and we can't address it until 3-4 months down the road, or it now getting to where it needs to be. The point of the matter is it's a level of proactive measures versus reactive measures.
Well, I want to thank you for being here. I think that you have as good an opportunity as anyone. As I mentioned, it's a lot of hard work, but let's see how it goes, and I wish you all the best.
Robert,
Thanks
can
for
I
having
just
us,
make a
Robert.
quick comment? The candidate, well, both candidates will have the power of the Progressive Empowerment Party to assist them and help them when they do become the representatives in the relevant areas.
Yes.
Right? So if they have issues that they cannot get addressed, then the party will assist in that area. And secondly, you made a comment about Mr. Pandey, which I would like to say is, you talked about the fact that he has great ideas about the Constitution. My question is, why is it that he did not deal with those issues?
Well, that's another point we have to deal with.
Agreed, but I just want
we
to
have to go. We have
yes.
to go. We want to thank you for being here, and we appreciate your involvement in things, and we look forward to this. Okay?
Thanks,
Thank you.